Welcome to this week's episode of The Period Feels. My name is Neddy, and I'm the content director here at August, and I'm joined by
Davi, the brand designer for August.
Alrighty, so the theme of this week's episode, all the awareness months. It's AAPI Heritage Month, it's Masturbation Month, it's Mental Health Month, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. Like, there's so many.
May's poppin'.
Yeah, May's poppin'. Yeah. There's a lot of things we got to draw attention to and raise awareness on our platforms for, which is fun as content people. That always gives us something to do and something new to try.
I'm excited because I get to design some cute things for y'all to see. So if you see anything colorful,
it was Davi, it was not me. Speaking of, for everyone on our email and text list who don't know, I have been making all of the emails and all of the templates that you've ever received from August since we launched. I'm not a designer, if you couldn't already tell. I think the energy of my emails is cute scrapbook, but I don't know if I'd put my credit card information into their site. But now we have Davi, who has completely revamped the whole thing. Starting tomorrow, we're filming on what is the date today?
Wednesday, May 10th.
Okay, we're filming on oh my God, we're filming on Wednesday, May 10th. So on the 11th, you're gonna open your email and go, whoa, what is this beautifully designed National Tampon Day email?
You're too kind. I feel like you also shit on yourself too much. Like, I feel like you did a great job. So I'm like, gotta relate this a little bit to you. Pat yourself on the shoulder. But yeah, I'm excited for y'all to see some new designs and just get the vibe of August and what like. Hold on, that's what traded.
Go for it.
And I'm excited for y'all to see the new designs and just get the vibe of, one, what I can do. So I'm excited to contribute to August, but also just like the energy visually that August gives, like on a daily. So
yeah, I think we have a lot of like hopes and dreams for August of what we want to look like, sound like, feel like. But me and Ruby, as creative and fun as we are, have literally no idea how to use anything. Everything's designed on Canva, and I'm so excited to work with you to bring all of our August energy to life.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I feel like y'all had so many crazy ideas, and I'm like, oh, let's get into it.
So when you kind of like looked at our brand before coming in, what was your initial design inspo? Like, you wanted to build something or create something based on inspiration from what we were already doing?
So the first thing, especially when we spoke, you said that the energy is very big sister energy, and like everyone jokingly looks at y'all like a scrapbook, and I was like, oh, but I love that. Like, that's so awesome. Like, it's so real. It's like kind of like all my friends, all my family kind of putting together based on this one like foundation of periods, right? There's like an edgier side that wasn't coming across, but it was coming out in the photo shoots, just not together in design. And I was like, I want this to be everywhere. Like, I want everybody to feel like it is big sister, but like the cool big sister that you're like, hey, can you like hook me up with $20 so I can hang out with my friends? Or like, you know, that kind of big sister where she'll give you a hug, but she'll also like give you your fake ID. That kind of thing. And I was like, that's very August. So I was so excited to see that. And also for like Instagram, I know that primarily August, we're very like TikTok content creation. But I feel like
you don't need design for that.
Right? Like, it's just that energy I wanted to translate and like make it all uniform in our emails, in Instagram, and all those things. So I'm excited for like all of it to kind of come together and really like be exactly what August is as a person. Like, if I think of August as a person, I'm like, August is that girl. Like that, without saying the bad word.
Also, the person who made our brand book will be very pleased that we're actually following the brand guidelines now, because we didn't know how. So Renee, if you're listening, we got this.
Thanks, Renee.
Circling back on it being Everything Awareness Month, of all of the months we've talked about, or awareness weeks or awareness days, I guess, which one do you kind of resonate with the most and think, wow, I'm so happy they're doing an awareness month for that, or a day?
So we mentioned National Teachers Day, we mentioned...
Oh, it's Teachers Week.
Teachers Week, I'm sorry.
It's Masturbation Month. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, AAPI Heritage Month, Celiac Disease Awareness Month. There's some random ones in there. I feel like I could keep going.
I would say number one, because I have a bias, my best friend is a teacher, so definitely National Teachers Week. That's what it's called. I just think it's so exciting to like. I think it's so nice when the little people, quote unquote little people, but like who are really the big people, get recognition. Like, I think it's so awesome because she's someone who is like really passionate about education, and I feel like it's so nice for them to kind of get like a highlight to be like, we see you, like, you really are the bomb. Like, thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for educating our kids. Thank you for being not only a teacher, but a therapist. For like, it's just like so awesome to see that. So that's one I'm excited about. Definitely AAPI. I feel like I feel like most of the August theme is Asian, so it's really awesome to like. I want to learn more about y'all and like y'all's culture, and I think that that's pretty exciting. And then Masturbation Month. So Nadia hooked me up.
Oh yeah.
So
Wait, she hooked all of us. She hooked me up too.
Dude, I feel like shout out to Nadia for hooking us up with all the sex toys, but she hooked me up with this. She hooked me with two. So there was one. I forgot the name of the brand. But there's another one. It has like a little bit of a divot. It's kind of like, it looks like a teardrop. Oh man, I wish I knew the name. It starts with an L. Man.
Was it Womanizer? Was one of them?
It might have been.
Oh, the other one was Nova, right? Let's just talk about Nova.
Let's talk about Nova. So the
Nova.
We Vibe one. So that's the newest one, and I've never had that one before. So, but I haven't used it to masturbate yet. But I was like, thank you, Nadia, for hooking me up on a very special holiday month. So I'm also excited about that because I feel like, especially before we were off camera, we were talking about it. But like my best friend, she's Lebanese and she grew up in a Muslim household. So I feel like it's so interesting to hear people's different stories, especially hers, because she was. I keep talking about my best friend, Teachers Week and Masturbation Month, but it's just so cool to like that it's there. Like she probably at one point in her life was never thought that it would be like this publicly spoken about or celebrated. So I feel like it's kind of like full circle kind of thing. And same thing for us, I guess. I don't know if you grew up in the same situation, but
no, I actually did grow up in a Muslim household. A lot of people don't know that, but I think my parents were definitely very progressive. Like my mom also like doesn't really practice, but like, you know, we grew up believing in just like all on that kind of like religion, I guess. Yeah. But I think it's super strange, especially like coming out of that I lived in Malaysia, which is like a Muslim country, and then to like move to the US, and then now I'm sitting on a podcast talking about my mental health, my period, showing pictures of my period, and like talking about masturbating, and that, you know, our boss is hooking all of us up with vibrators with consent. This is not an HR violation, everyone. I promise.
She's like, anybody, look, if it's
if you're comfortable, no pressure, you know, pick your style, whatever. It's super great. Also really nice to work in a sex positive space like that.
It's very like we kind of just mention it, and it's not like a weird energy or like awkward but usually it's pretty funny stories though.
Well, lots of awareness months to get to. With all the awareness that we have to bring to our podcast this month, it was hard to just pick one person to have on the pod, but I really believe that we've picked a champion of all of these things. Stephanie Lee is a huge advocate for mental health. It's built into everything she does in her brand, Self-Made. She's an Asian founder. She's super outspoken about self-pleasure and masturbation, and we are so excited to break it down with her on this episode of The Period Feels. Welcome back to The Period Feels. We are joined by a very special guest today, Stephanie Lee of, well, everything from the White House to corporate beauty to your own skincare brand. Welcome to The Period Feels.
Thank you. I'm also a dog parent, very important. A Leo, equally important. Nice. But I'm super happy to be here and can't wait to talk about all things.
Alrighty. For the people who don't know much about Self-Made, could you tell us a little bit about your skincare brand?
Sure. So it is the first emotionally intelligent personal care brand. We develop all of our products with mental health experts, BIPOC specifically, and it really addresses how your mental and emotional well-being affect your skin and body function. I love that you're like rocking a zit patch at the moment, because for me, one of the biggest times that I actually break out is when I'm stressed, right? And so when it comes to feeling anxious, we feel it in our body first, whether it's like the tightening of our chest or in our muscles. You know, when I'm stressed, I love fried chicken. Had that last night in bed. And, you know, that self-care kind of goes down and the cortisol goes up and it shows up on my face. So really making products and the ingredients that speak to those things, as well as every single product actually stands for and embodies actual mental health concepts. So from attachment styles and relationships to resilience, all the way to emotional intimacy. And so we're on a mission to, you know, bring us all a little bit more self-aware and a little bit more self-management, especially when there is a pandemic, there is a war, there is a threat on reproductive rights, and we're just trying to survive.
All right. Well, that's a lot all in one go, and I just love everything that I love. Even the names, like you said, like attachment styles. Like I think even just having the names be of a different mental health concept is already opening up a conversation that might be new for a lot of people. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the education factor of your brand and how you kind of like make all of these mental health concepts more accessible to people who might not kind of have a lot of mental health like accessibility or you know, conversation in their daily lives?
Well, it's a very personal thing because I, growing up as a Asian first generation, like never had conversations. I don't even think I said like mental and health in the same sentence or even next to each other. So what was most important to me is like, this should be where you live your life. Like on your vanity, in your showers, on your nightstands, because that's how often we should be thinking about our emotional well-being. And for so long, it didn't exist in conversations, or it was in maybe a therapist office far, far away and inaccessible for so many reasons. Or, you know, for me, I was told, like, don't cry, right? And so it was important in terms of the education. The first step to self-awareness is expanding your emotional vocabulary. Words are so important, and so that's the reason why we do it with mental health experts to make sure we're credible. After, you know, we come up with a vision of a product and the mental health concept, we work with our mental health experts to actually do a deep dive on secure attachment. What does a secure attachment style look like versus insecure? How does it affect your body? So when you are going through a breakup or waiting for your crush to call, like your anxiety goes up, your cortisol goes up. And secure attachment, which has to do with those relationships and having a secure attachment with yourself and others, actually has an active ingredient in it that lowers your cortisol levels in your skin cell. So really thinking about deeply on every level, how does that stress affect our bodies when we go through what is just normal life and the shit that it throws us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like, oh my God, lost my train of thought.
It's all good. I'm with you.
Yeah, so you are also a community-based brand too. So when you launch a product, how do you kind of like break it down for your, is it Common Ground where you house your community?
So
or it's coming back.
It's coming back. It's coming back. We had a platform that every single product we launched also had a digital education element to it. And it was really awesome to really see people show up in a way where they're so vulnerable and transparent about those experiences, their lived experiences around these very specific topics. So we've done panels and roundtables with you know, our community that included the lead organizer for the Crown Act that just passed around a resilience, and it had to do with discrimination around black hair. And so really being able to speak about the politics around beauty, what's affecting people today, right now, with our community was really, really awesome. And so we also have a junior advisory board because I'm not a Gen Z. I'm basically a wannabe, I guess. Gen Z.
You give Gen Z energy for sure.
Thank you. The jumpsuit for sure. In the name of Gen Z. But it's 22 really incredible. We just ended this year's cohort. This is the second year. But 22 really incredible, unbucketable women, non-binary folks who love beautiful things, fashion, nails, but also care deeply about immigration policy. Or we had an astrophysicist, I believe, like who graduated from, you know, university in that. So yeah, it's been really incredible to meet so many people who are multifaceted, because that's really who we all are if we let ourselves show more vulnerably.
I think it's so cool too that you get to take something like skincare, which, I mean, if you look at the other brands in the landscape right now, you don't have to say anything, nor are a lot of people, but you're choosing to say, oh, I care about this thing and I'm going to stack a bunch of issues that I care about around it. I think, how have you kind of run into issues when you're trying to like pitch your brand or explain it to other people where they kind of are like, well, why are you doing this? Or like, why does skincare have to say something? Like, well, how for you?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
The funny thing is maybe I don't talk to those people that are questioning it because those are not my people, you know? In the beginning when I was talking about the brand, before I even had a deck, a product, like beauty and mental health weren't a thing. People were just like so confused, and primarily older white investors were like, I don't understand. Yeah. Like even one was like, well, I don't have mental health issues, but I know people do. And I was like, sir, I mean, in my head, right? Like, sir, I know your daughter. You know, like we know what exists, right? And so I think the pandemic, if anything, has just accelerated the consequences of not paying attention to our mental health, not taking care of our whole bodies physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so the conversation is just so much easier. And also, I'm making it for a very specific person, and it speaks to the people it needs to speak to, and it doesn't when it doesn't. And I'm okay with that because this is our mission.
Yeah. I can kind of see some parallels with August on that, where people are like, you're a tampon brand. Like, why are you talking about this? You definitely don't have to.
Who are those people?
Yeah, I'm going to find them. But you know what I mean? With a comment, they'll be like, girl, it's not that serious. I'm like, oh, but it is. Like, the things that you consume can always be doing something else or making more impact, where like, it doesn't have to be a unique thing that we're addressing issues or donating product or care about sustainability. But
totally.
I think that a lot of conversations we have at August will be, someone will send a new brand into the chat, and it's kind of like, we kind of will pick apart, do you think they're genuine about this? Or do you think they're just doing this because everyone else is doing it? So how do you kind of feel about this movement towards brands who don't truly believe in the mission, but are like, oh, I can sell this company if I, attach some kind of pseudo mission to it that I don't really care about?
I think it's, number one, it's inevitable that every brand must be more purpose-led in general. That's just where we are as a world. And I think that there are obviously late adopters who are just hopping on that train. And anytime you're talking about making impact in the world is great. I think what really bothers me is the virtue signaling, the performative nature of kind of like basically anything, right? And like, I started the business in the pandemic, and I know that you guys launched also in the pandemic as well, so pandemic babies. And I remember, pandemic was hitting, New York was like dead silent, there was a monster coming to get us, everyone was terrified. Black Lives Matter blew up, right, with George Floyd's murder. And I cannot even, and that's when I was also fundraising.
Oh my God.
It was awful. Let's not go there. But I cannot even tell you how many black squares, right, on Instagram.
Oh my God, the black squares.
Oh yeah, banners on LinkedIn with like Black Lives Matter of folks that I was pitching, and when I said, our business and our brand speaks fundamentally to BIPOC Gen Z. It fundamentally is about behavior change and how we take care of ourselves in a very real way and learn empathy or vulnerability, the shit that we're not taught in school, right? Yeah. And you're lucky if your parents passed it down to you if you are blessed in that way, but I wasn't. So I think when I realized that, they think that impact is maybe investing in an electric motorcycle and not directly into communities, or, they say one thing, how they care about it, but there's no financial or operational infrastructure or financial, any financial support in that space, then that's not true, right? Like, actions are even that much more important than words, especially when they're on social media. So let's be real.
And it's not like built into the structure of the organization and the company. It's more reactionary of like, oh man, people are talking about this. I think we got to talk about this.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very easy kind of now to pick out who cares and who is just kind of like, oh man, we got to say something or we're going to look bad.
Oh, totally. And even like, I remember, I think I'm a wee bit older than you, just a wee bit. But I remember like social responsibility being a thing when it started going into the corporate world. And it was an office down the hall with one person trying to do like an anti-bullying campaign or just something to check a box. And that's bullshit. If you are a brand today really wanting to serve your consumer and what they need and expect from you as a brand, speaking out and making social justice, sustainability, all of those things actually a part of your core business model, that's how you will survive, right? Like, the world is changing, so I'm totally with you.
Yeah, is that kind of like the main reason why you left the corporate world then for beauty? Like, was it just kind of you looked at the way everything was and you just kind of said, why is no one doing this? Why is no one making changes? Or what was kind of your main inspiration of, I have to leave and I have to do it myself?
So many reasons.
Okay, we'll start with like the most important one for you then.
The most important one was I went through a mental health crisis while I was working in corporate beauty, and I had, like, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in the South where like it's black, it's white, and then me kind of like, where do I belong, And going to New York and working in beauty, I was so excited, and this was after working for the First Lady's office, and unfortunately, even though I achieved my, I'm putting in quotes, dreams, it's kind of like a shit show. And you're like, get there, and you're like, oh, this has been my dream for like 10 years. And then, oh my God, it's the exact opposite of what I expected. And so for me, Mental health wise, relationships were falling apart. I had never, as a woman of color, Asian woman, didn't have tools, resources, community around emotional well-being. I didn't even know what like being sad was like, you know? I just flew off a deep end into depression. And so I think when I was sitting there in meetings and hearing the conversations and how we talk about the consumer and what we're trying to fix for the consumer and what they should look like and sound like and all the things, and then I was going to therapy 3 to 4 times a week because of my privilege. I was able to do that, working on embracing my inherent worth that I was born with for free. I was like, these two things are fundamentally fucked up where they meet. Our mental healths have so much to do about what we feel about ourselves, see about ourselves, and how we show up in the world. And anything that inhibits how we show up in the world affects our mental health, right? And so beauty, social media, being hugely within that. And my mentor said to me, if you can't change it from the inside, you got to change it from the outside.
Well, you were very lucky to have a manager who kind of within the company was encouraging you to leave too and not trying to be like, no, like sweep it under the rug and stay.
Totally.
But yeah, the mental health aspect is a weird one, especially like I was the first gen to go to therapy, and it sounds like you were the first gen to go to therapy too, especially coming from Asian culture. And it's like a very interesting learning and unlearning because my parents, I'm not going to put that on you, but my parents were very much the generation of like, I'll just go work really hard and it will go away. And it's just kind of interesting to see like how in my life now mental health is such a like I got to do this first or I'm not going to do it, and it's like that's how it sounds to you too, coming from a background where it's like, yeah, they'll be fine to sweep it under the rug.
Absolutely. I remember my mom being like, you just have to be strong.
Yeah,
like my whole life, and I'm like, what does that mean? But okay, I'll just be strong. Are you good? Yeah, like whatever. Which love my mom, but also the exact reason why I go to therapy, and she knows this, because going to therapy, I remember like, you know, living in New York and again, going so often, every time my parents came to New York, I asked them to come to therapy with me. I remember getting in a fight with my mom because she was just like, absolutely not, right?
Been there.
Yes, and then I remember just like breaking down and being like, because she was like, you need to do this. I mean, what moms do, right? You need to do this. You need to blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember she said something extremely hurtful. Nobody's going to want to be with you if you're like that. And I died because it was the worst fear, right?
What? That's literally what?
The worst fear. And then I came back after a few hours because I was like, needed to like do the processing. And I said to my mom, I was like, I hear you. And I need your help in doing that change, whatever it might be. And that's when she agreed to go to therapy with me. And I just remember when she's like sitting on the couch with me, she has her arms crossed, like super closed, everything's closed, right? And then my therapist was wonderful, just like, you know, opening up, you know, validating her, which is such a powerful feeling when you're validated. And then all of a sudden my mom's like arms open, laughing, leaning in, talking to her and stuff. And even though she dreaded doing it, there's something about the space to like, for yourself, right? That is so important, that needs to be protected. And that's why we're in beauty and skincare, because that moment that you're putting on a serum or in the shower or touching your skin, those are all moments to like self-validate, to treat yourself the way that you deserve to be treated, touched lovingly, gently, whatever it might be, because all of that is a foundation for how you expect other people to treat you.
And it's like especially powerful too that it is like a mental health focused brand, but also that it's Asian owned, because I think that in itself is such a powerful message, because a lot of us first gens who are not really growing up talking about these types of things. When I was doing my deep dive research of you before this interview, of course, I stumbled upon like the concept of habit stacking, I guess. And I wanted you to tell our listeners a little bit like kind of about what that is and how you rope that into your skincare. Yeah,
we all kind of naturally do it anyways, I think, in terms of like our productivity mechanisms. But like, for instance, you get birth control from your doctor and you need to take it every single day, same exact time, or else human error, you know, right? Yeah. You know. And so what do? You take it after you brush your teeth and before bed. You use current habits and stack on top of it your new habit to create that seamless routine. And so that's what we're doing with mental health and emotional well-being. Every product, again, embodies that concept. When you're touching yourself, every product has a question in order to invoke self-curiosity. For secure attachment, it is, what does loving yourself look like in action? And so for True Grit, it's what could you do if you knew you couldn't fail, and self-disclosure, it has to do with what does it feel like when you touch yourself? And so taking those moments for like grounding in self is really critical, especially when so much of the world takes away time from ourselves. And so how do you protect that? How do you make that your time? You take a routine, you inject intentionality, and it becomes your ritual. And so that's basically a long-winded way of explaining habit stacking, but the whole brand is built on psychological concepts and behavior, like patterns that we do naturally, and elements of behavior change, so that we can all learn to take care of ourselves and manage our emotions.
And that's like, I thought that was really awesome to hear. And it got me thinking a little bit about how someone in that time of the month could kind of find their own way of habit stacking for period time. I'm stealing this quote from Eli Rallo, aka The Jar. She came in one day. She was like, we got to change the mindset of, that time of the month, to like, no, it's that time of the month. And we're just like, this whole deep dive got me thinking of like, what routine and what things do we need to center around when we have our period? And it's like, first of all, I hate my body. It's the first thing that comes to mind. I feel disgusting.
Yes,
I am disgusting. It's all these negative self-talk things. And, I just kind of wanted to have a conversation with you on what would you habit stack for your period time?
Oh, great question. But I also want to mention that all those feelings of like reflecting on us is a reflection of our society's attitudes around periods and our bodies and stuff. Like cultures hide women. When
Literally
happens,
go outside and sit in this house.
Yeah, exactly. So let's put that aside. And then habit stacking, as you were talking, I was just thinking, I actually have Mirena, which is IUD. Thank goodness.
I'm too scared to get one, but I know I need to get one. I'm a pain baby.
I understand, but like the idea of not having to take, I do take antidepressants and all this stuff, but it used to be the idea of not taking a pill every day was like freeing from that, like, oh my God, did I take the pill? So I don't do that anymore. But if I were to have like my little pill guy, I would cheers every time I take a pill to something, right? Like the mini win of that day or whatever it might be. But I think that's what I would habit stack on top of it to create a little bit more like self-celebration about how I'm taking care of my body and my autonomy. And I think that's the most important thing that we, during this time of like our rights being threatened, is to recognize what we can control, our autonomy, because so much of that, if we don't have autonomy over our bodies, we don't have autonomy over our mind, and that's how it affects mental health, because you cannot separate your body and your mind. That is not me. That is our mental health expert, Dr. Deshauna Johnson, who I spoke to this morning about this.
Credit where credit's due.
Yep, absolutely. So, it's important. It's important what you guys are doing. Like, I think that's a fantastic idea. Like, I wouldn't have thought about, like, what can we do with the time of the period? And now we should have more conversation.
We should have more, because I feel like there's a lot of things that happen in your body when you're on your period. Your body's telling you more things during that time than normal, but I usually ignore them. But it's telling you it's hungry. It's telling you this and that. Totally. But it is a good time to kind of lean in instead of just checking out. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, that is that thing about like dissociation from our bodies, right? We dissociate in so many ways because we don't like being in our skin, or we don't like the way we feel or look. And how do you make your body a home is really critical, especially more than ever.
Yeah, literally. Oh man, I don't know. We got a lot of synergy going on. Maybe we got to collab. I don't know. Also, on the topic of just like self-love on your period, you reached out to Nadia a while ago about wanting to maybe write an article for our blog about self-pleasure or period sex and like just self-pleasure and periods. When I got to thinking about that this month, it's like there is a huge stigma around masturbation and sex on your period, because the immediate thought is that this is disgusting. So why would I want to do that? And it's a very like negative, like I'm gross and I don't feel sexy. So what was your what would you put in this article, which I still might hit you up for actually?
Yeah, we should definitely do it. First of all, when you feel like shit, you want to have an endorphin release or a dopamine. I'll have to like make sure I find a cited source for that one because I'm all about that real science, not that fake science or fake news. So masturbating on your period is a really easy, free way to feel good. So I want to be super clear about that. And it actually helps to naturally relieve your cramps.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
For real?
I'm going to cite that, though. I'll give that to you.
Yeah,
but I think,
the
so I think that's one thing is like, what's happening physically, emotionally, and neurologically when you are self-pleasuring. And that is like ultimate sign of self-love. You are literally loving yourself in the moment.
Loving yourself on your period.
In the moment when you need it the most, you know? And so I think that's really important to recognize, especially as you were saying about that behavior change around how we treat ourselves during the period and what we think about ourselves. Like, I don't plan on getting pregnant anytime soon, but I have friends who have and all that good stuff. And actually one of our colleagues is on mat leave, and she is amazed at what her body can do, right? Like, we are superheroes, literally in our uterus. And I think recognizing that power is incredibly vital, especially as, like, the power dynamics societally-wise are shifting. Like, I think it's really great. And we need to find those tools that really help us do that. And that's why I love self-disclosure. Like, intimacy, pleasure is a learning edge for me. I haven't grown up with the best experiences and mindset around sex and relationships within that manner. And so that product is really for the little me, you know, the younger me, about like, how do I deserve to be touched? That touching myself is not a bad thing, that I don't need to hide when I have my period and like try to like shove the tampon up my sleeve in class and all those things. But really, it has really fantastic ingredients in it that talk about discomfort and pain and really address those pieces, because intimacy is the most vulnerable time you'll ever have, and finding that closeness with yourself requires that vulnerability to let yourself free and feel pleasure. And how do you do that when the world feels scary around you because your shit is being threatened and you can't be yourself, free-flowing, having a period because it's nasty? Like, you can't.
You can't. No, literally not.
And so that's what we have to change. And we change it one hand or finger or two fingers at a time.
Or device.
Or a device, whatever it might be.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good positive note to end on. We have already gone over time, but I just want to thank you so much for being vulnerable about mental health, about being like an Asian founder, about period sex and masturbating on your period. It has been really a treat to meet you and to have you on our podcast today.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for these awesome questions and bringing this to light. Like, if you don't make the space, we can't talk about it, so I want to make sure we say thank you.